Hello and welcome to another episode of WJ Live, powered by the Western Journal. I'm Michael Austin, the supervising reporter at the Western Journal. Today, I'm joined by one of my henchmen, a member of the reporting team, Grant Atkinson, who has been doing some very good original reporting lately. You know, check out his stuff on our site. And our assignment editor, our crack assignment editor.
Yeah,
I don't know
that
if I
works.
could say that about. Yeah, crack
Sure
assignment editor.
You can say whatever you want about me.
Joey Chester.
Hello.
Just the best assignment editor we got.
Oh, thank you.
And surprise, surprise, we're going to be talking about Kyle Rittenhouse today.
That's right.
Nobody could have guessed we would be talking about that. The jury will be entering deliberation shortly.
I think so.
Right? They just finished closing arguments, or is defense still
The
making
defense should be finishing their closing
finishing it
argument,
up.
I mean, within the hour probably.
Yeah, and then we'll learn if self-defense is still a justifiable right you have as an American.
Yeah.
That will be determined with the ruling that the jury comes out with. But, you know, we have a lot of stories related to just the chaos, the ridiculousness that has been this trial. It's a sham trial. There never should have been a trial in the first place. You know, the media has been drumming up all this fake news regarding it. The prosecution has just been awful.
Oh, horrible.
Corrupt and just has no idea what they're doing. And what else are we talking about? That's the gist of our show today. And we're going to start out with how did we get here? Why is there even a trial going on right now? It's clear, it was clear from ever since we saw that first bit of video footage showing how the shooting occurred.
Yeah.
We knew it was probably self-defense. And, Ben Shapiro's talked about this. Ben Shapiro he said, I'd like to wait until I see the prosecution's case because maybe they know something we don't.
Yeah, that's a novel idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Waiting until there's actually a case made in court.
Yeah. And at the Western Journal, in our office, I think generally everyone in the office was like, okay, Kyle Rittenhouse is innocent, but we didn't really make any grand announcements or pronouncements about it. And we also waited to see the trial and to see the evidence. And as it turned out, there was no evidence. He was innocent, completely innocent. Every bit of evidence that the prosecution has put forward has just made the defense's case more strong. And yet we have the media continuing to say that this guy is clearly guilty.
Yeah.
We have a montage we're going to play for you guys that is, with everything we know about the Rittenhouse case, these claims being made by establishment media figures are shocking. So we're going to play this clip for you now.
Kyle Rittenhouse, he murdered 2 people, by the way.
Rittenhouse is basically what you would have had in a school shooter. He's a 17-year-old kid. He shouldn't have had a gun. He crossed state lines to supposedly protect property. No, he was going out to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a vigilante.
Kyle Rittenhouse, the armed teenage vigilante.
A 17-year-old vigilante, arguably a domestic terrorist, picked up a rifle, drove to a different state to shoot people.
Kyle Rittenhouse, a guy who's deeply racist, went with weapons to a Black Lives Matter protest looking to get in trouble. He did. He murdered a couple of people.
Rittenhouse, the 17-year-old kid, just running around, shooting and killing protesters.
You see the 17-year-old who was radicalized by Trumpism, took his AR-15 to Kenosha and became a killer.
What?
Now, if you've been following the facts of this case, you would know that virtually every claim made in that montage was false.
There's zero evidence for any of it. It's made up.
So they were calling him a vigilante. He just went in there he just wanted to shoot people. He's a domestic terrorist. He's racist. People have called him a white supremacist.
There's literally no basis for the white supremacy.
Radicalized by Trump?
A lot of big narratives. And we'll get into some of these narratives about him crossing state lines and illegally possessing a firearm. We're going to get into that in a little bit later. But right now, we're just going to focus on, vigilante. He just went in there to shoot people. He just went in there to kill people. The media has been saying that. Big tech has essentially been protecting those claims from any criticism. If you write Kyle Rittenhouse did nothing wrong, or in many cases Kyle Rittenhouse is innocent, that tweet on Twitter, will be suspended. You'll be told your account will be suspended. You'll be told that you were glorifying violence by saying that. And you'll be forced to delete that tweet. We just put out a story about that. Go to the Western Journal to check that out. So big tech the media, Facebook and Twitter have both been kind of censoring posts based on basically suggesting that Rittenhouse is definitely innocent or definitely guilty. And then the political elite, the Democrats who are in control of our government right now, Biden has repeatedly suggested that Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. There is zero evidence this guy is racist. This guy has any connection to any sort of racist group, and yet they're calling him a white supremacist.
They searched his phone, and the defense brought this up today.
Yep.
They searched Kyle Rittenhouse's phone. There was no evidence. Anything racist, no ties to white supremacy, white militia groups, anything. There's zero evidence. It's made up.
And let me just ask, am I correct that neither one of the people that he killed were black? Is that correct? They're both
that's
white
correct.
people.
All three people he shot were white.
Yeah.
The first man he shot was a convicted serial pedophile, and he was yelling the N-word around the time that he was shot.
Who's the racist?
And I've heard the prosecution say, well, that's not justification to kill somebody. Like, okay, you can say that just because somebody is a convicted criminal doesn't mean that they should be killed. That's fine. There also is the fact that this person was yelling a racist term that if Kyle Rittenhouse had been yelling it, obviously it would be all over the headlines. And then there's the fact that these people were charging Kyle Rittenhouse, which I'm sure we'll get into the actual facts of the case. But there's so many reasons why these narratives are just so not accurate.
I really wanted to look at, okay, it's clear that all of these things these people are saying are completely false. They're lies. They're obfuscating the truth. They're saying misleading things. Why? Why is big tech doing this? Why is the media doing this? Why are Dems doing this? Why do they seem to be conspiring to get this innocent kid convicted of murder? And I think if you look at the left's narrative around the current, racial justice movement, it kind of reveals to you why this is so important to them. So I'm just going to walk through what the left wants you to believe happened in Kenosha. Okay. So the riots that happened in Kenosha, they were beforehand, they were what caused the riots. They were precipitated by the police shooting of Jacob Blake. The left wants you to believe that Jacob Blake was this innocent black guy minding his own business, trying to hang out with his family, when a police officer showed up, chased him down, and shot him 7 times in the back. That's what the left wants you to believe, okay? The left then wants you to believe that a bunch of just courageous Black Lives Matter protesters showed up in Kenosha in solidarity with Jacob Blake. They came in there to protest against police brutality. And there were some riots, there were some cars burned, but nothing too serious, nothing crazy. It was mostly a bunch of protesters trying to spread the truth. Then, this is the next part. This is probably the most important part of this, that the media wants you to believe that the establishment, the Democrats, all those people, in response to peaceful protests, a bunch of white supremacist militiamen showed up in Kenosha to basically kill black people. That's what they want you to believe. And you can look at the tweets and what they've said about the militia members. This is why they're saying Kyle Rittenhouse is a white supremacist. They want you to believe those people are racist. They want you to believe that when Donald Trump was forced to send in the National Guard to save, businesses and to save people's lives, that was just because Donald Trump is racist and he wants to shut down peaceful protests. And then they want you to believe that Kyle Rittenhouse, and you heard it in a lot of those media clips, one of these racist militia members, he hated Black Lives Matter. The prosecution has made the case that, hey, he didn't like Black Lives Matter, so why murderer? That Rittenhouse was one of these racists that went in there to kill protesters, that basically because he believed BLM was evil. Here's what actually happened, okay? So Jacob Blake resisted arrest. He fought police officers. He refused to drop a knife he was holding. He rushed to his car after resisting arrest, reached inside where he could have been pulling out a deadly weapon. They later found a knife sitting there. I don't know. It's not clear to me whether he was maybe grabbing a knife or whether he was trying to hide the knife he had on him. But he got shot when he was reaching into that vehicle. That is completely justified. The DOJ cleared the officer of any wrongdoing in that shooting. So that's nothing. The Jacob Blake shooting was completely justified.
And he survived.
And he survived.
He survived.
That's an important part of it too.
Yeah, and he's still out there spewing his lies.
Yeah. And he was convicted.
And his family too.
And one of the most fun parts of that story, his ex-wife, I believe, girlfriend, something like that, who accused Jacob Blake of raping her. She was the one who called police to the scene in the first place. He was trying to, cause some mess with her and her family. So that happened. Then the protests started, which, sure, some of them were peaceful, but they were quickly followed by violent rioting that led to hundreds of millions of dollars in property damage. fires erupting everywhere, businesses being destroyed. You know, the business that Kyle Rittenhouse says that he was there to defend lost millions and millions of dollars in merchandise from just the destruction. You know, their whole business was basically burned down prior to Kyle Rittenhouse showing up. And then in response to the rioting, the destruction, the looting, militias started to show up. And they came there just saying, hey, we just want to defend these properties. We're gonna keep people from destroying them and from looting them. And Kyle Rittenhouse was, you know, I don't think he was associated with any sort of militia.
Right.
But his father lived in the city, his aunt, his grandmother, I believe, just several family members. He worked in Kenosha. He showed up with some friends, and they wanted to defend a business. Yep. And that's what he was doing there. And then as he's on his way to defend that business, he gets chased down. And you can see this in the videos. He gets chased down by a serial child predator.
Yep.
This 17-year-old kid's getting chased down by a serial rapist. Who grabs for his gun. He shoots that guy. Another guy starts hitting him in the face with a skateboard. He shoots that guy. Then a third offender comes up, points a gun at him and approaches him, and then he shoots that guy. That is what happened, okay? The left wants you to believe he's an evil racist that was fighting against Black Lives Matter because he's racist. No, he was a kid there to save people. Was it smart that he went? I don't know. Maybe not. But he was there to help. And everything he did that day was heroic. He did everything he could to prevent those people from dying. It's amazing. So guys, do you think I'm right here? Do you think they're trying to preserve this narrative that the riots in Kenosha were peaceful, riots in general were peaceful, and anyone that was opposing them had to have been a white supremacist murder? Is that why they're trying to sell Rittenhouse down the river?
Oh, yeah. They desperately need to hold on to this narrative. I mean, everyone remembers last year, 2020, the CNN reporter who was on TV saying, fiery but mostly peaceful protests as there's a literal building burning down behind him. That's the same narrative that they're trying to preserve here, is that these people, these BLM, by the way, there was Antifa there as well. In fact, I believe one of the people Kyle Rittenhouse shot was a member of Antifa. So they desperately need to preserve this narrative that BLM, Antifa rioters are peaceful. The prosecutor today, in his final argument, called the people who did all this damage in Kenosha heroes. He said they were a group of heroes and that they were trying to take down an active shooter who he thinks is Kyle Rittenhouse. That's absurd. These heroes caused $50 million of damage in Kenosha. So yeah, they desperately need to preserve this narrative, and Kyle Rittenhouse is the fall guy for that. Like they need to take Kyle Rittenhouse down to preserve their narrative.
I think a lot of them know he's innocent.
Oh, I think so too, but they desperately they have to save it. So yeah, it's absurd.
Because the left has made it clear, they're willing to sacrifice the truth. Marxists believe this implicitly, especially kind of the neo-cultural Marxists we have today, that, look, the truth in the moment, you can sacrifice that if it's to serve the greater purpose.
Yeah.
And the greater purpose now is to sell that narrative.
Well, you've had literal members of the Democratic Party say things along those lines.
Yes.
So I think that's exactly what's happening is they went so hard on this narrative that these were peaceful protests, that there was not violent rioting going on, or that if it was happening, it was very slim and not the majority of people. And so now I think that you're seeing the effects of that. And I think that's why you have seen this prosecution's case fall apart so much. Because they have to just continue going in on this because they went so hard that there's no way they can turn back now. And you're just seeing it fall apart in real time.
They would have to admit that the claims that they made over a year ago in August, September 2020 were completely false. I mean, Joe Biden would have to admit that what he said was a lie. And so I think Kyle Rittenhouse will have an incredible lawsuit when he gets off, because it's going to be similar to the Nick Sandmann thing, where everyone rushed to judgment immediately after an event because the media and the left don't believe in equal justice and getting an actual trial and waiting for all the facts to come out. They just jump to conclusions, and they have to stick to them because they can never admit that they were wrong, or their entire narrative would collapse. And like you said, Grant, they would have to admit that they were wrong, and they won't.
And they've been wrong about a lot.
Yes.
And now we're going to get into some of those specific claims that they've been wrong about, stuff like he was crossing state lines as if that was an insane thing to do. stuff like he carried a weapon over state lines illegally, and the fact that he possessed a firearm illegally. Those all were kind of central to the left's narrative that this dude was a crazy white supremacist looking to cause some damage.
Yeah, so I actually want to pull up quick a fact check that I think it was PolitiFact. They love to fact check us.
Yes.
There's I believe we have it, a picture of a fact check from August or September 2020. Let's put that up on the screen about Kyle Rittenhouse and whether he could possess a gun in Kenosha without parental supervision. So PolitiFact says it is false that at 17 years old, Kyle Rittenhouse was perfectly legal to possess a AR-15. This got completely blown up today. And well, first off, the prosecutor in the Rittenhouse case, it feels like the guy went to Twitter law school. I mean, he just like he is constantly losing. He has hinged his entire case on blurry images, blurry drone videos where you literally can't see anything that's happening. He's condescending to the jury. He's slimy. I mean, there's nothing likable about him. But that's beside the point.
Yeah.
The state, the prosecutor, completely got wrong the gun possession charge for Kyle Rittenhouse. In fact, the judge threw it out today. And Will Chamberlain, he is a conservative lawyer. His content's really great. He laid it out last year that Kyle Rittenhouse was innocent on this gun charge. 15 months ago. He called it. And that's why he said whoops to that PolitiFact, because they really got it wrong. Shocker. The fact checking has got to be just like one of the most just slimy careers.
90% of the time, it's all about semantics.
Yes.
How can we catch them on a word or something like that?
Yeah. So Wisconsin law says that any person under 18 years of age who is armed with a dangerous weapon is guilty of a misdemeanor. With that said, there are multiple exceptions to that law, and one of them applies to Kyle Rittenhouse. And one of them deals with the length of the barrel. So it is only illegal for him to possess that gun if the length of the barrel qualifies it to be a sawed-off shotgun or rifle.
Yep.
Well, they pulled out a ruler today. I mean, I can't believe they're just doing this now. Who would have thought, maybe we should check. Maybe we should look up how long the barrel is on an AR-15 before we charge him with this.
Yeah.
Like, these people are stupid. They're not smart.
Yeah.
How foolish do you look to charge someone with something without even looking at the facts of the case or the law? I mean, and so they pulled it out. It turns out that the rifle was in the legal length, and Kyle Rittenhouse was perfectly legal to be possessing that firearm. He did nothing wrong that night by possessing the firearm, which just looks so terrible for the prosecution in front of the jury.
Yeah. And another point that they're trying to nail him on, I was watching CNN and their legal analyst said this, is that what that legal analyst was saying was, you need a hunter's permit if you need to be licensed to hunt. There is something in the law that says, you need to, it can't be sawed off. And then secondly, if you're 16 or 17, you can have it as long as you have, if you're hunting, as long as you have a license to hunt. If you're hunting, if you're using the gun for other reasons that don't have anything to do with hunting, then you probably don't need a hunting license.
No,
the
you
law
don't.
makes that clear. So they continue to play these kind of semantical games trying to catch us, and we're not fooled anymore.
Well, and it goes back to how the media decided the case before it ever went to trial or any facts came out. I mean, these people were fact-checking claims about Rittenhouse before, there were even charges brought against him or anything. They just decided, nope, he broke the law. We've decided those are the facts. What the court has to say does not matter. And this is the problem I have with fact checkers and left-wing media. They are corrupt. They don't care about the facts. And we see this all the time in cases. I mean, even with, I know Derek Chauvin was convicted of murder, but still they decided that case too before the courts even had a chance to examine it. This is what the left does. They don't care about the law. So it's super problematic. I think there's and this is just my opinion maybe, there's an overall attack here by this prosecutor, and it's the message that the Second Amendment is not good. Self-defense is not okay. I mean, that's really the overall, in addition to protecting BLM and that narrative, there's this really underlying tone of like self-defense is bad, the Second Amendment is bad, guns are bad. By the way, the prosecutor should not be handling guns. He aimed a gun with his finger on the trigger at the courtroom. It's like basic gun safety. You don't do that. But that guy wants to lecture the jury on gun laws and whether Kyle Rittenhouse committed the crime. Stupid. But anyways.
But yeah, it's self-defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that you bring up the media and how little they care about the facts. I feel like I'm going to sound like an old man a little bit here.
That's okay.
But what happens these days is that
the
media will...
These days, you're already sounding like one, yeah.
The media will put something out there.
Yeah.
It'll get circulated on Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, whatever the youngins use these days, you know what I'm saying? And it will start to be considered fact. For example, Kyle Rittenhouse was criminally possessing this gun, or he drove across state lines because he just wanted to kill people. These things that are not true, or at the very least lack context, and they start to be circulated. They start to be sent around by everyone. And then like people who don't even know about this case or about politics, like being an employee here, I'll have my friends who are not as into politics, and they'll talk to me and they'll say, well, I heard that Kyle Rittenhouse was this and this and this. It's like, just because you say these things, it may come out later that they're not true, but it's too late. Like, people already have these assumptions now that have been made based on what the media said, and even if they go back and amend it later, it's too late.
It's not to get too far off track, but that was exactly what happened with the whole Breonna Taylor case.
Oh, yeah.
Like, she was sleeping and cops came in and shot her just for no reason. Turns out she was awake. She was staying in a hallway. Her boyfriend was with her. He shot at police, and then they returned fire. But, you know, nobody knows that. People still think she was asleep when she was shot.
Yes, they do. That's the narrative.
And people still think Kyle Rittenhouse is a murderer.
You should see, I mean, some of the headlines that just come out of the trial. It's like the media watched a completely different trial than what we've been watching this whole time. I mean, it's just stunning. It's like they ignore everything that the defense says that is very convincing, and they just prop up the prosecution's really thin case. It's super frustrating.
Yeah.
And the attack on self-defense, like you were talking about, Joey, that's been a real key point here. Wouldn't you?
Yeah, it absolutely has. And I think that's something that kind of came out on accident from prosecutor Thomas Binger here today.
Not a good look.
He was talking about whether or not Kyle Rittenhouse had a case for self-defense, and he was trying to make the point that Kyle Rittenhouse was the aggressor and therefore shouldn't be considered that he was acting in self-defense, which is, in my opinion, untrue. And there's plenty of testimony to back up the fact that he was acting in self-defense. But as he was trying to make this case, he made a pretty outlandish claim that shows he really doesn't understand the Second Amendment or self-defense at all. And I think we have a little clip of that we can show you here.
The defendant actually told you that he thought Joseph Rosenbaum was going to take that gun and not only kill him, but kill other people, which is really ironic considering the defendant is the one who killed people in this case and the only one. But putting that aside, they have to convince you that Joseph Rosenbaum was going to take that gun and use it on the defendant because they know you can't claim self-defense against an unarmed man like this. You lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun, when you're the one creating the danger, when you're the one provoking other people.
So in there, he literally said, you lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun. And I know we just talked about fact checkers. I'm sure they're going to say, you're taking this out of context. He also said other things. Blah, blah, blah.
Missing context.
He literally said that. Those are the words he said.
Yeah.
They can fact check us. I'm sure it's coming. But he said, if you bring a gun, you lose the right to self-defense. That literally makes no sense.
No sense. I mean, that's like if someone breaks into my house and, you know, they have a knife and I shoot them. Well, I lost the right to self-defense because I brought the gun.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Unarmed people can be a threat to your life. This is insanity that he could possibly say this. You know, the reason, you know, this is the narrative. This is another narrative about policing that they keep trying to push. And this prosecutor, you know, obviously he hates police. Even though he's supposed to be on their side as the prosecutor, because every police officer knows this, is that if someone's approaching you, if someone's attacking you and they're not armed, they're still a threat to your life, and you have a right to shoot them if you deem that they are a threat to your life. Michael Brown, if we're gonna just go through all of the lies that the left has ever told about this racial justice nonsense, but this is the lie that began with the shooting of Michael Brown, who, after. We all know that the officer was completely innocent in that case as well, despite this was, by the way, the case that started Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter was born out of this case, out of a lie that Michael Brown was murdered by a white police officer. He was charging at a police officer, going to kill him when he was shot. And guess what? He didn't have a gun. And that doesn't change anything. He was still a threat to that officer's life.
Yeah, to me, I think that's what connects all these things. That's what connects this Kyle Rittenhouse case to Black Lives Matter, to the Jacob Blake case. You talk about an attack on self-defense, and I think that all you need to prove that point is to look at the very case that inspired these riots that Kyle Rittenhouse was there. That is a classic case of self-defense. He's holding a knife. I mean, the guy has a weapon. The police told him to surrender. He didn't. Blake. He tried to get in the car. Jacob Blake, this is. And so he was shot by the police officer. And they demonized that and said that police officer was bad. So if that's not self-defense, then nothing is.
These people hate guns. They fundamentally don't like the Second Amendment. They don't. This prosecutor has made it very clear he does not like the Second Amendment. And I think it also shows from his handling of a weapon as well. He's never had any experience with a gun. He's never been in a situation like this. And they hate the idea of self-defense. They don't want police to be able to defend themselves. They don't want Americans to be able to defend themselves. And Kyle Rittenhouse is like, if they get him on this, they will have achieved their goal of demonizing self-defense and the Second Amendment.
Here's another great one. Ma'Khia Bryant. Remember that?
Yes, I do.
So Ma'Khia Bryant was this, I believe she was a teenage black woman. She had a knife. You can literally see the video where an officer shoots her. She is mid-thrust about to stab another African-American girl.
Not even the officer. It was another African-American
girl. Officer shoots her, saves that other girl's life, and he is still demonized as a murderer. Even people that knew the whole facts of the case, people like Cori Bush, all these Democrats, all these activists, they still say that guy was unjustified in shooting.
There are people saying knife fights are okay.
Yeah,
knife fights are fine. Just let them fight it out.
I mean, they want Rittenhouse. They want the victim of Ma'Khia Bryant. They want all these people to just die. I mean, what else would they want?
Well, yeah, you watch the prosecutor and he's talking about, he's like reviewing the video. I was watching his closing arguments today, and he's saying, well, the guy who was charging, Rosenbaum, he wasn't within arm reach of Kyle Rittenhouse. So that means that he was unjustified in shooting. So Kyle Rittenhouse has to wait until that guy can literally touch him. And then it's okay to shoot him? Like, that's the argument we're going with?
Just to clarify, this guy was sprinting. Rittenhouse was running away. He was yelling, friendly, friendly, friendly. And this guy was chasing after him, yelling at him, screaming. At one point, I'm not sure if it was during the chase, but at one point he said he was going to kill him.
Yes, he did.
Yes. And so
he said, like, if I see you alone, like, I'll kill you or something like that.
Earlier on,
right?
he had said that to Rittenhouse and another dude that he was with. But so self-defense, they don't want anyone to have a right to self-defense, and they especially don't want them to have that right if they have a gun.
I think another important part of this, we've all watched the footage and the pictures that the prosecutor is trying to base his case on. The pictures and videos are blurry. You cannot see what's happening. I mean, basically, his biggest argument hinges on whether Rittenhouse was the aggressor, whether he provoked the situation and caused himself to be in danger. So he's basing that on this blurry image of Kyle Rittenhouse that would require Kyle Rittenhouse to hold his gun left-handed when Kyle Rittenhouse is right-handed, and in every picture and video is seen holding the gun as a right-handed person would. And by the way, that AR-15 is made for right-handed people, not left-handed people. When a shell casing gets ejected from the gun, if you were holding it in your left hand, the hot shell would shoot in your face. There's no way Kyle Rittenhouse was shooting the gun or aiming the gun, because he claims that Kyle Rittenhouse was aiming the gun at people beforehand, apparently left-handed, which is absurd. His whole case is based on a lie and blurry pictures. It's so frustrating. I don't know how he gets away with it.
And even if they were clear, they're from like drones and like FBI helicopters that are like so far away.
You can't see anything.
at all.
It's blobs. It's blurry blobs.
It's just people like moving like ants.
Yes. You can't see anything. And this is what his case rests on. I mean, like, it's nuts.
It's amazing. It has been such a joke. I can't believe that it's actually going to the jury. Like,
it's crazy.
You would assume after all of the evidence we've seen that at some point somebody would have stopped this trial. That the prosecution would know, okay, we need to stop now. We don't have anything. We're not going to try to get an innocent kid convicted of murder.
They were desperate, and they were trying to get lesser charges added because I think they've realized our case is really thin here. We're going to struggle to get him on these higher charges, but they didn't get those lesser charges added. So my prediction is it's going to be a quick jury deliberation, and they're going to say he's not guilty. That's my opinion. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, but that's my opinion.
I think we're getting close to wrapping up here. So anything else you'd like to add, Grant?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I said this, I think, a week ago or more on this show, that the prosecution has nothing. I don't see a way that he'll be convicted. If he is convicted, to me, that is just a clear sign that the justice system in our country is so flawed that it can be manipulated by the media and
scary.
by Twitter and by Facebook. Yeah. That's the only way that
if he's convicted, he will win an appeal. Like he is not going to prison for years on end. There's no way.
And in fact, now that they got the illegal possession thrown out, I mean, he might walk
without
anything.
Right.
Because there were some things I think we weren't sure about, like the possession and the curfew thing. But I think he's going to completely walk free.
Yeah. Well, we're going to stay tuned to the Western Journal. We're going to give you all the developments on this case. Check back in with us on WJ Live on Wednesday. We'll give you more updates then. Thanks for joining us so much today, guys. It means so much to us that you support us, that you watch our shows. If you really want to help us out, if you want to support us even more, go to the Western Journal and subscribe at westernjournal.com/join. That helps us subvert Facebook, Google, all these big tech companies that don't want you to read our site, okay? They're constantly restricting the types of stories that we can share with you. They're constantly trying to demonetize us, finding any excuse to keep us from telling the truth. And we need your help. So come subscribe. If we get enough of you guys to subscribe, we're never going to need Facebook or Google ever again. So please consider doing that. If you have the money, if you have the time, please subscribe to the Western Journal. Also, you can help us out on those sites while we're still trapped there with our big tech overlords. So, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at www.youtube.com/WJLive. Subscribe to us, hit the bell so you can get notifications, and follow us wherever you can find your audio podcasts. And that's about all we had for you guys today. Thank you so much for joining us.